Here's a homeschool truth for you. Homeschool supplies seem to reproduce like tribbles on a starship. No matter how organized you are, you're going to end up with papers, books, pencils. Oh Lord, help me with the pencils on the floor of every room of my house. You're going to end up with school supplies everywhere. So why bother organizing? I'm Leslie Maddox, an engineer turned homeschool mom, and I want to help you customize your homeschool. In the last many homeschool plan decoded videos, we've been using the homeschool plan decoder method to create a custom curriculum plan for your children. We are now entering the organize step. And I can give you 2 reasons why you should organize, even if your kids are like mine and tend to scatter their school supplies all over your house. The first reason is so that your family can clean up and know where to put things. You see, school supplies end up everywhere because kids are using them, and that's fine. They drop pencils, lots of pencils, all the time. They forget to put books away, papers fall out of their binders, stuff happens. But if you have some sort of organizational system in place, all of those things have a home they belong in. Institute a 5-minute cleanup sometime during the day with the rule that things are actually put away, not just moved around or hidden, and your kids can put their books, papers, and thousands of pencils where they belong. But they can't do that if all of those things don't have a home. Another reason to be organized is so that you can put your hands on what you need when you need it. And your kids too, they should be able to find what they need without having to ask you for your help locating an item every 5 minutes. When I was working as an engineer, one of the questions we asked ourselves a lot was, is this going to generate customer calls? Essentially, we tried to see things from the customer's point of view to foresee any questions or problems they might have that will cause them to make an angry phone call. And we would try to answer that question or solve that problem ahead of time. It saved the customer frustration and it saved the company time and money. You want to do that in your home. See things from your kid's point of view and ask yourself, am I going to get thousands of questions about this? What can I do to answer a question before it's asked? What can I do to make my kids more independent so that they don't need me to direct every second of their days? In the next few homeschool plan decoder videos, we'll talk about a few different ways to do that. We'll talk about what school supplies you need and how to organize them. We'll talk about how to prep and organize your homeschool curriculum. We'll even talk about how to keep track of what your kids are reading. But in this video, let's answer this question. Do you really need a homeschool room? We'll go over some of the pros and cons of setting up a dedicated homeschool room, and then I'll share with you what I've chosen to do. You can then make the decision of whether or not a dedicated schoolroom is the right decision for your family specifically, which is the first step of organizing all the homeschool things. Now let's talk about a schoolroom. Do you absolutely need a homeschool room? Of course not. Actually, there are a lot of rooms in your house that you don't absolutely need. You don't need a bedroom to live your life. I've taken some great naps on the couch. You don't need a kitchen to prepare meals. An outdoor grill works just fine. You don't even need a bathroom. I'll let you think about that. So why do we have all of these rooms in our houses? For the convenience and the storage, and to keep activities separate, especially bathroom activities. In the same way, you don't necessarily need a schoolroom to homeschool, but many families prefer to have a schoolroom for the convenience and the storage, and to keep activities separate. If you're on the fence about this, let's make a pros and cons list. We'll start with the pros. A dedicated homeschool space means you have a dedicated space to store all of your homeschool materials, cutting down on clutter throughout your house. Take a trip to IKEA and a lot of your storage needs will be solved. You also have walls to display your kids' artwork and educational posters without clashing with the decor in the rest of your house. Speaking of decor, you can decorate the schoolroom to please your kids and make it a fun space, kind of like an educational playroom. It makes learning more fun. Depending on how many kids you have and how large your schoolroom is, you may be able to have a workspace for each of your children that is appropriate for their size. Kitchen tables are fine, but not actually all that comfortable for a 5-year-old trying to learn to write his letters. Once your student forms the habit of doing schoolwork sitting at a desk in a schoolroom, they get into that schoolwork frame of mind much quicker. It's not as easy to get into a diligent frame of mind if you're sitting where you normally sit to eat or watch TV. And on the other side of that, you don't have to clean up schoolwork to eat or watch TV. Last but not least, if you have a door on your homeschool room, you can close it after schoolwork is done and not think about it anymore. It's nice to have that separation. not to mention a lock so that visiting children don't wander in and mess up all of your organized supplies and curriculum. But there are some cons to having a dedicated schoolroom. Not just any room will do. It needs to be in the right location, especially if you have younger children. A schoolroom in a part of the house that makes it inconvenient to start a load of laundry, answer the door, or do something in the kitchen will seriously mess up your day. You'll have to spend money on furniture like desks and shelves. You'll probably have to put some money into storage solutions, even if you don't have a schoolroom. But the dollars do seem to add up faster when you're outfitting an entire room. A schoolroom may not be practical for large families since there just won't be enough space in that one room for everyone to have their own workspace. But there are other options. You can create a dual-purpose space where you do schoolwork and something else. Maybe a combination schoolroom and playroom, or a schoolroom and home office. You'll just need to make sure that young children don't get into anything dangerous for them and that they stay out of anything that you want to actually keep organized. You could completely forego having a dedicated space. Your kids can do schoolwork at the kitchen table, on the couch, or maybe even in their rooms. But you'll still need to find a solution for storage. Maybe dedicate a closet to homeschool supplies, or store your supplies in cabinets or shelves that don't make your house look like a school. Any one of these options will work for some families. None of these options is the correct choice, no matter what anybody tells you. But the choice you make will affect how you organize and where you put your things. For my family, I knew from the start that I wanted a schoolroom. It's the right choice for us. I'll put links to my homeschool room tours below. I think of our schoolroom as my homeschool headquarters. It's where I store most of our homeschool supplies and curriculum and where I do most teaching and grading. I like that my kids have their own workspaces. I like that it's easy for me to prep for the week since all the relevant materials are in one place. And I love that there's some separation between schoolwork and the rest of our lives. I have learned some lessons along the way. In our last house, we had a giant schoolroom on the second floor. The size was nice, but I had very young children at the time and found the location to be inconvenient for the reasons I stated earlier. So when we were looking for our current house, one requirement was a room that we could use as a schoolroom on the ground floor. Our current schoolroom is much smaller, but the location is just right. I used an app called Room Planner to virtually plan where I would place our furniture and what furniture would actually fit in the room. The app does have a bit of a learning curve, but I found it to be worth it. The size of the schoolroom turned out to not be such a big deal because I do give my kids a lot of freedom in where they actually do their schoolwork. I have one son that prefers to work in our living room or kitchen, another that sometimes takes his schoolwork up to his room. They all like to do schoolwork in front of the fireplace during the winter, and will sometimes take schoolwork outside to our picnic table, a blanket spread on the ground, or even the trampoline. But in the afternoons, we all usually do end up in the schoolroom at some point so that I can work with each of my kids individually. So it's not like being at school where the kids spend most of their days in one room. It's homeschool, so they're spending most of their days in various parts of our home. So now I ask you, what do you think will work best for your family? Not somebody else's family, but your family. In the next Homeschool Plan and Decoded video, we'll talk about what homeschool supplies you need and how to go about organizing them. Remember that you can access all the videos that walk you through the steps of the Homeschool Plan Decoded method of customizing your homeschool right now at the link below. And happy planning!